This is a short video in regard to the reset.org, specifically in reference to David Cameron talking on the 1 year to the 800th anniversary of the Magna Carta at Runnymede. Celebrations there. Basically, he said that the Constitution, specifically he said the Magna Carta, should be taught in schools. I find this very disingenuous. The Magna Carta, the Constitution of which it's part of, the Constitution is actually far greater than Magna Carta. It's far older than the Magna Carta. It's something that David Cameron should be leading by example on to uphold it. Specifically, I make reference to the Privy Council oath of office, the Prime Minister and other members of the Cabinet. And various other people are what's known as Privy Councillors. That's essentially advisors to the monarch, without getting into the details of that relationship as they currently stand at this moment in time. What the Privy Council oath says, and part of it, is that there can be no foreign rule in Britain. No foreign rule in Britain. If David has such respect for the Magna Carta, for the Constitution of this kingdom, then his first duty is to lead by example, and start talking about the fundamentals of the Constitution, and specifically his oath of office, the oath of office of all MPs, to actually uphold the Constitution on everybody's behalf. David Cameron talks about a referendum on whether we should stay in or stay out of Europe. But David also said some time ago, I think it was about a year ago, publicly on national TV, that Parliament didn't actually have the right to give away things that belong to the people of this country. He said that. What he's effectively saying is that we are not members of the EU. Those rights were not the right of Parliament to give away. It was not the right of government to negotiate away, to agree to give away, to sign treaties to give away. It is a breach of the Constitution, and specifically in the reference of the Privy Council oath, it is a breach of not only this government's, but also previous governments and any future governments' duties to uphold the Constitution and their oaths. Now, something that's been done without authority has no authority. It has no basis in law. If I decide I want to give away your car to somebody else, or to sell your car to somebody else, or to sell your mobile phone, or give away your mobile phone, do I have the right to do that? Clearly not. Therefore, I have the right to have it back. I have the right to have it back intact, and also possibly some compensation, for any damage that's been caused. So this is the fundamental of David Cameron and every single MP in the House of Commons. The Commons are being, elected to represent the people, not other interests and not foreign interests. There is no basis of negotiating a new treaty. We are not members of the European Union. And all that money being paid over every single time it's paid is unlawful. You have no authority to do this. Now, let me get back to some other fundamental bits as to what the House of Commons actually is, what the various different relationships are. Who are the Commons? The Commons are essentially one of three groups of people that are well defined within our ancient constitution, and there are many documents that actually reference this, but it's not something that's currently really understood. I'm not even sure if most members of Parliament, whether the House of Lords or the House of Commons, really do understand this. Essentially, the House of Commons are the representatives of the Commons. They are not the Commons themselves. The Commons are a group of people, and that group of people is known as one of the estates of the realm. Now, the estates of the realm are essentially the three groups of people that have the rights to, not rights, but liberties and freedoms under the very ancient constitution of this country. Now, we have four nations in this country, but the similarities between the liberties and the freedoms of each of those four nations of Wales, Scotland, Ireland, or latterly Northern Ireland, and England are actually fundamentally the same. They may be described in different documents. You can look at the Scottish Claim of Right in 1689, which specifically references the estates of Scotland. The estates of Scotland. England has estates. Those three estates are the Lords, the Bishops, and the Commons. Now, in actual fact, they're not the three estates. They're representative of the three estates. So the estates are actually the nobility, the clergy, and the commons, the people. Now, that collectively represents all the people of this kingdom. Now, we are essentially a kingdom, a constitutional monarchy, a limited monarchy. Now, what that means is that neither the king, or in this case currently the queen, or any government that represents the historical situation in this country has the right to do certain things. It has the right to administer, but not the right to actually impose things willy-nilly on people. And this fundamentally is what the Magna Carta, the so-called rebellion of the barons, was actually all about. Now, it wasn't just a rebellion of barons. It was actually a rebellion of the estates of the realm collectively. In 1213, at St. Paul's, which was one of the ancient meeting places of this country, not inside the cathedral, but outside, the estates met, and one of the bishops there basically said, look, we've got this charter of 1100, actually, which is the remedy to all this. The king cannot do things like give away the country to a foreign power, like King John did to England. He can't do that. There's no authority to do that. Why? Because essentially the king merely holds things in trust for future generations on behalf of the estates of the realm, all of the estates of the realm. Now, essentially what happened during the 1200s then was that essentially those rights, those liberties and freedoms, more properly said, were being interfered with. It wasn't just the barons. It was not just the barons. It was the estates completely. Now, we have a lot of complexity within our situation because our constitution is not written in one document. It's not recorded in just one place. It is actually spread through our history. You can cite things like the Charter of Liberties of 1100. You can cite the Magna Carta. In actual fact, there were at least 22 Magna Cartas that records demonstrate since about 1215. But Sir Nicholas Coke, who was a great judge in the 1600s, said there could be up to 45 of them. Up to 45. Now, the fundamental principle behind these three estates is to do with the separation of control of this country. Essentially, it's impossible for so many people, even then, to administer the entire government. So things were broken up into its constituent parts, and essentially there were rights and liberties that each estate had the right and the duty to protect for themselves for future generations, but there were also intervening rights and duties and liberties that people had to uphold for each other. Now, what has happened recently is that essentially Parliament, particularly the House of Commons, has usurped the powers of the estates, governance of the estates, the liberties, overridden the liberties, of which this European thing is just one example. It's one example. Now, in the 1600s, we had a thing called the English Civil War. Essentially, one of the aspects of that, and it was only one of the aspects of that, was the king basically saying that he had divine right to rule. And this is not part of our constitution. And there was a civil war, and there was a lot of bloodshed, and there were competing factions. And essentially, Parliament, specifically the House of Commons, gained ascendancy and disbanded the House of Lords, and we had what was called the Commonwealth, which at some point was actually run by Cromwell and became an effective dictatorship. It was not representative of the state of the Commons, certainly did not uphold the liberties. and I'm not talking about the rights of these people to to steal or to do all sorts of things against other people. It's not that sort of thing. It's the right to uphold your liberties and freedoms, yeah, which are ancient, incredibly ancient in this country. There are documents and records that go back to about the 400 BC, which actually show the fundamental principles of our constitution date even before Alfred, Alfred the Great in the 870s. But essentially, Alfred was the first person who effectively, if you like, collected all the customs, the laws, and if you like, put together a document that set down the principles of how the liberties and freedoms in this country are actually governed under a system called the common law. Now, my intention here is not to go into the detail of that. That's really for another day. But essentially, is to focus on this thing of David Cameron, not because I'm anti-Tory. In fact, the reset is not targeting individuals. It's actually about the fundamentals of our constitution and the right of the estates of the realm to convene. We don't need to ask any permission, to convene by collective agreement. So this includes the commons, the ordinary people, the clergy, and the nobility, the barons, if you like, to essentially reaffirm and reset, to restore the constitution so that the liberties and freedoms, and I'll use the word rights here because one proceeds from the other. Without liberties, you cannot exercise your freedoms, and you cannot guard your rights. So it's these things that need to be restored and reaffirmed, to be reset, and that's really what the reset is all about. It is not about party politics. Party politics, the control of the Commons and the rest of Parliament, is not the way in which this country is meant to be administered. These people are not masters, they are our servants, and essentially this is an invitation, if you like, to David Cameron. Start upholding the Constitution, start speaking the truth, start upholding your oath, and to the leaders of the other political parties, and there are hundreds of them, start doing the same. The reset is essentially an enabling mechanism. One of the meanings of the words reset is a mechanism, a button, if you like, that you can push just like a computer. So the reset website and the other systems involved in that are a mechanism for people to actually use, to join, not to join some political faction. There is no political factions in essentially the right of the estates of the realm to get together. But essentially for us to, if you like, look at our history, look at our liberties, both national and also local, because essentially the estates of the realm tended to act locally through the communities, specifically the boroughs, but at the moment as large numbers of the boroughs have been abolished by Parliament. One questions whether they actually have the power to do that. I don't think so. Many other people don't think so. But through the parishes and the towns, there's places where there is still the right to have local referenda and to agree to convene, to come together and essentially to issue a set of documents, if you like, so that we require the constitution of this country, the liberties and the freedoms of the people, all of them, not just some, to be re-established, reaffirmed. This is our right. This is our liberty. This is our freedom. Nobody can stop it. We do not need anybody's permission. And woe betide anybody that interferes with proper electoral processes, because those are crimes. So that's just a short video at this moment in time to introduce the idea of our constitution and the duties of the estates of the realm to uphold their liberties and the liberties of each other. As I say, there's a lot more involved in this, and over the period of time, in the next few months, lots of these details will be elucidated on the Reset website. There's only a small group of people who are getting to grips with this, but as more and more people join, people like people in Coventry who rediscovered an ancient charter that is still in effect, that essentially has been sidelined and ignored. People in the various different parishes are rediscovering the rights that they have, the liberties and the freedoms that they have, in their local communities that have just been ignored, pushed to one side by, fundamentally, either local governments ignoring them, when they have a duty to uphold them, and central government riding roughshod on them and effectively saying that they can abolish them. I'm sorry, Parliament does not have, the House of Commons does not have, David Cameron does not have, no government has a divine right. This has been dealt with. The monarch has no divine right. None of the estates have divine rights. We have liberties that are ours and ours forever, and you have a duty to uphold them. Please do so. Thank you.